Follow along on my Golden Gravel Trail across southern Missouri. This is a new trail from ACA. It goes from Cape Girardeau to Pittsburgh, Kansas, and I was going to do a little bit. Instead of ending in Pittsburgh, I was going to go up to the Katy Trail. There are several ways to get to the start of the trail. I selected flying out of O'Hare. I'm taking Contour Airlines, and it's quite reasonable. I think the trip is 79 or $69 plus another $25 for the bike. It takes a little over an hour to get there. The plane was late by about an hour, so I got to start at 3:30. My first day was 36 miles from the airport to Marble Hill, a motel in town. Half of it was fairly level, and once I got to Whitewater, it started to pick up the hills. The rain also ended. It started off raining, and it ended by then. It just stopped raining. The sun came out. I think I got 11 miles to go. I guess I'll take off there's a rainbow back there. I guess I'll take off my rain jacket. I went up a big hill. I think it's 200-foot climb, and some of it was up to 15%. I really got sweaty. After it quit raining, it got very nice out. The scenery was fantastic. You're on these small, narrow gravel roads with overhanging trees. They were quite steep on some of the hills, and at the bottom of each hill, there'd be a creek. Most of the time, they'd pour some concrete and you'd go over it. This is the hotel I ended up staying in Marble Hill. It's called the MEC Reed's Mercantile. The hotel was a pretty nice hotel, really. I was feeling bad. I took my dirty bike into the room. Day two was from the motel at Marble Hill, which I paid, I think, $107 for the night, to a trailer in Annapolis I rented. It's the whole day would be 73 miles long with 5,285 feet of climb, which is about 73 feet per mile, which is quite a bit. The amount of climbing is what amazed me the most, I think. They were short and 2 to 300 feet in elevation, but they're as steep as 16% going up and down. You're doing hike a bike whenever it gets above about 14%, or I was, even though my bike was geared pretty low. The first town I came to, I had lunch. That was after 30 miles, Marquard. Really good lunch, homemade, and gave me the energy to complete the day. So I got back out on the trail again. You had these creek crossings. The water in the creeks were crystal clear. That was another thing that surprised me. I forgot how clear the water is down in southern Missouri. I used to do canoe trips down and kayak trips in southern Missouri about 15 years ago. But you're always going up and down. You're in the Ozarks. You pass over a couple large rivers. It's just gorgeous. Coming into Annapolis here, like I said, I rented a trailer, and it was a huge trailer. Could have took about 5 people. Cost 157 for the night. This was my most expensive spot. Could have. Day three is from Annapolis to Echo Bluff State Park. It's a rural sections without any towns. This section is 66 miles long with 4,825 feet of climb. They ran a motor grader down the trail when I started, and it kicked up about 8 inches of material, and they graded it down with the blade. Right now, I'm running along the Black River. It's a gorgeous river, very clear. The photograph doesn't give it justice. It's just crystal clear. And there's some side creeks coming in. I saw a lot of wildlife today. There were turtles, snakes, deer, quail, turkey vultures. It's just full of wildlife along the trip. And again, there's a few homes, and this is a cemetery along the way, but it's mainly just vacant land that you're going along. And as you get closer to the current river, it really gets hilly, and you're just going up and down again. It's amazing. I think my overall um, average rise was 74 and a half feet per mile, which is pretty steep. But a lot of these downhills, you're applying the brakes all the time. And I started to hear a noise in my brakes, and it turned out there's a wear indicator, and it was starting to rub, showing that my brakes are beginning to wear through. That had me some concern. But anyways, along I also ran out of water because there were no towns, so I ended up filtering some of the water in the many creeks that are going over. It was quite easy to do, and the water looked real clear. And again, it's just narrow trails, most of it about 8 to 10, 12 feet wide, with trees going over the top there as I'm filtering some water again. I met a guy on a four-wheeler out, and I said I was worried about finding a spot to camp, and I didn't know if I'd be able to make the state camp there. And he said there was another campground short of that at a lake, and I wasn't able to find that. So I ended up just camping along the side of the road a few miles before the state campground. The wild camp I camped at was probably 200 feet off the trail, and it had a lot of brush. A four day at 33 miles, and it had 3,320 feet of climb, which was 102 feet per mile, which was my steepest amount of climb. I ended up going into the state park, Echo Bluff State Park, to the lodge there to get breakfast. It was good breakfast. I did look at renting one of the rooms in here a day before, and they were basically done, and there was a cabin for $350. So I was just going to camp, but the breakfast was good. I climbed back up the 200-foot high hill to get back onto the trail. Trail was wonderful. It's probably the prettiest day. You start off along the current river or in that area with a bunch of camps. You end up going up to this sunken land conservation area. This is all a park, and I think there's dispersed parking. I did find a dog, a lost dog. His owner's number was on the collar. I called him. He said send him a pin where I was at. After work he would pick him up. He couldn't find him that evening, but the next day on Saturday he was able to find him about 6 miles from where I sent him the pin. And this was again a gorgeous day, lots of ups and downs. I was grinding on the brakes. I ended up stopping in Somerville, and I stayed at the Rusty Nail or Gate Inn, and it was $70 a night. My day five was from Summersville to Hartsville. It was 68 miles with 5,256 feet of climb. The day was a perfect day again. All 5 days, except for the 1.5 hours during the first day, were gorgeous. I think end of April, beginning of May is the best time to do this ride for the best weather conditions. Um, the temperatures would start off at 50, and they'd go up to the low 70s on every the day. Today's ride, we're getting into areas with more population. There's farms and things like that. There is also a big town, Houston, halfway between Summersville and Hartsville, where I had lunch. You still have the clear creeks with the clear water. It's very little traffic. I might see one car an hour, if that. And a lot of the small gravel areas, you won't see a car the entire day. So it's quite a pretty area to ride. I made a decision today because my brakes were wearing out. I was thinking maybe I could make it to Springfield, get a bike shop and get new disc brakes. But I decided to stop in Hartsville and have a friend that's in the area pick me up and take me to the train station in Salida, so I could ride home from there and do a little bit of riding on the Katy Trail. So if you have any comments or questions, please leave those in the comments below. A little bit about Hartsville. The people there were fantastic. I was going to stay above the coffee shop there. Amy had two units that she rented. They just bought this cabin here that you see, and they cleaned it up, and I was able to stay in that for the night, which was a nice place. If you have a bigger group, definitely get in touch with Amy. She's on the. I'll have her in my comments below. There's Amy on her front porch there, and this is her Farmer's Brew coffee shop. I had a smoothie there. It was great. If you come into town, there's also a camp as you come into town that you could probably stay at. It's a park, and there's a monument there in that park showing this is the center of population in the United States.